You could shine like the sun, but to someone who's blind to light, even your brilliance will look like darkness. Self-worth is not something you find, it's something you remember. It is not built by applause, praise, or validation. It is born with you, breathing inside you from the very first cry you made into the world. You did not arrive here to prove your worth. You arrived because you were worthy already. Yet somewhere between growing up and growing older, the world convinces us that our value must be earned, weighed, and handed back to us by the hands of others. They tell us we are enough only when we achieve, when we please, when we become something visible, desirable, or acceptable. And so we begin to chase worth like a ghost, always running, always reaching, never resting in the quiet truth that we were whole all along. The most dangerous lie you can believe is that your worth depends on someone's opinion of you. Because once you start measuring your value by the reflection in another's eyes, you give them the power to erase you. One day, they'll see you as golden. The next, they'll see you as nothing. Their moods, their wounds, their insecurities will paint and repaint who they think you are until you forget the color of your own soul. You'll start to twist yourself into smaller shapes, hoping to fit their image of love, hoping to finally be enough in a world that profits from your doubt. But listen closely. You are not a product to be marketed or a feeling to be earned. You are not the version of yourself someone prefers. You are not the echo of their silence or the weight of their approval. You are not the attention you receive or the absence you endure. You are something older than all of that, something infinite. Your worth is not a negotiation. It is your birthright. You can lose everything, your job, your status, your beauty, your followers, your relationships, and still remain valuable, because worth does not vanish when circumstances change. It is not tied to titles or possessions or how easily someone can love you. It is the quiet hum that remains when all else falls away. It is the whisper that says, "Even now, I am enough." There will be moments when you forget that truth, when someone you love leaves without explanation, when you fail at something you worked hard for, when you stand in a room full of people and still feel unseen. In those moments, the mind will try to convince you that you are less than you were before. It will whisper lies, subtle, poisonous lies that say if you were more beautiful, they would have stayed. If you were smarter, it would have worked. If you were better, you would be chosen. But hear me, you don't become unworthy because someone else couldn't recognize your light. You don't lose your value because someone decided they couldn't carry your depth. Their blindness does not define your beauty. You must anchor your worth somewhere unshakable. Not in people, not in things, not in the shifting sands of achievement or approval, but within. Your worth must live where no one can touch it, because if it depends on something outside of you, then every rejection will feel like death. But when it is rooted in your spirit, rejection simply becomes redirection. The truth is, you were born enough. You came into this world without titles, without makeup, without labels, and yet you were enough. You were loved before you knew what love was. You were valued before you could speak. The world may have told you otherwise. It may have broken you, overlooked you, or made you feel small, but your worth never left. It only went quiet, waiting for you to listen again. The task of life is not to earn your worth, it's to remember it. To look in the mirror and see not the scars, not the mistakes, not the things you wish you could undo, but the strength that kept you alive through them all. To see the light that refused to go out, even when everything around you turned dark. That light is your worth, and no one, not even you, can take it away. So many people spend their lives seeking permission to feel valuable. They look for it in relationships, in careers, in numbers, in validation that flickers and fades. But when you build your identity on something that can be taken, you build it on sand. The storm will come and the foundation will crumble. That's why the deepest peace comes not from being admired, but from being at home within yourself. When you no longer chase your worth, you begin to rest in it. Self-worth is not arrogance. It is not standing above others or pretending to be perfect. It is quiet power. It is the knowing that even in your flaws, you are still deserving of love, respect, and peace. It is choosing not to beg for what should be freely given. It is walking away from those who make you question your value, not because you think you are better, but because you finally know you are enough. You will meet people who try to measure you by what you can give them, how much you bend, how well you please. But you must not make yourself smaller to fit their view. You must not water down your soul for those who cannot handle its strength. If they cannot see your worth, that is their limit, not your flaw. Your responsibility is to see yourself clearly, even when others don't. Every time you doubt yourself, imagine the child you once were. Would you tell that child they had to do something to be worthy of love? Would you tell them they had to earn their right to exist, to breathe, to be held? No. You would cradle them. You would comfort them. You would remind them that they are already enough. That child still lives within you, waiting to be spoken to with the same gentleness. Self-worth is not loud. It doesn't need to prove anything. It's the calm after you've stopped chasing validation. It's the quiet confidence that says, I may not be everyone's choice, but I am still a masterpiece. It's the decision to no longer apologize for existing too boldly or loving too deeply. It's the freedom of not needing to perform your value for anyone's approval. One day, you'll realize that all the love you were begging for from others was really your own love calling you home, that all the validation you sought was simply your soul asking to be seen by you. And when you finally answer that call, something extraordinary happens. The world begins to mirror that truth back to you. People start treating you the way you treat yourself. Opportunities begin to align with your belief. The universe responds to your vibration of self-respect. And so, the journey is not about becoming worthy. It's about remembering that you already are. You are not broken, you are not behind, and you are not lacking. You are a soul learning to see its own light again. And once you do, no one's blindness can make you forget it. There are moments in life when the room feels too small for who you truly are, when your laughter feels too loud, your dreams too big, your love too much. You look around and see others whispering, shrinking, folding themselves into neat little boxes to be accepted, and you think, maybe I should too. Maybe if I quiet my voice, if I hide my fire, if I make myself smaller, they'll understand me, they'll stay, they'll love me. But the truth, my dear, is that you were never meant to fit into spaces that require you to disappear. You were not born to edit your soul to make others comfortable. You were not sent here to make your light dim just because someone else refuses to open their eyes. Yet so many hearts learn to bend until they break. They trade their truth for belonging, their brilliance for approval, their freedom for the illusion of being accepted. They become experts at pretending, smiling when they want to scream, agreeing when their spirit disagrees, staying when every part of them wants to walk away. But you cannot build peace by betraying yourself. Every time you shrink to fit into someone's comfort zone, you lose a piece of your spirit. You silence your song, you cage your wings, you start living in fragments. And one day you wake up and realize you've become a stranger to your own reflection. You don't recognize the person staring back, not because you've changed too much, but because you've hidden too well. People will often ask you to be smaller, not because you are wrong, but because your truth reminds them of their own limits. Your confidence exposes their insecurity. Your courage magnifies their fear. Your authenticity makes their masks feel heavy. And instead of growing with you, they will ask you to shrink with them. But you must not. You must never make yourself less to make others feel more. The cost of their comfort is too high. It's the cost of your soul. There is a sacred kind of loneliness that comes when you stop shrinking. When you begin to speak your truth, some people will walk away. When you start choosing yourself, some will call you selfish. When you begin to shine, some will shade you. But the people who truly belong to your spirit will not be blinded by your light. They will rise with it. The right ones will never need you to become smaller so they can stand taller. They will celebrate your fire, not fear it. Remember this: growth often requires outgrowing. You cannot expand and still stay wrapped in the same smallness that once made you feel safe. You cannot evolve and still fit into the versions of yourself that were built from fear. There comes a time when you must release the comfort of being liked for the freedom of being real, because peace will never come from pretending. You are not too much. You are not too emotional, too ambitious, too loud, too soft, too real. You are exactly as you were designed to be, vivid, alive, infinite. The world may not always understand that. They may call your depth intensity, your kindness, weakness, your boundaries, attitude, but their misinterpretation does not change your truth. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to speak with fire and move with grace. You are allowed to exist fully in the magnitude of who you are. When you shrink yourself, you rob the world of your light. There's someone out there who needs the sound of your courage, the vision of your strength, the warmth of your authenticity. But they can't find it if you keep hiding behind the fear of being too much. The world doesn't need smaller versions of truth. It needs souls who dare to stand tall in their fullness. You must remember that you were not created to be a background character in someone else's story. You have your own melody, your own message, your own magic. Stop waiting for permission to live it out loud. Stop apologizing for your light. You do not owe anyone an explanation for being whole. If your joy makes others uncomfortable, let them adjust. If your dreams intimidate them, let them look away. You have already spent enough time folding yourself into corners for people who would never do the same for you. Sometimes shrinking becomes a habit. You've done it for so long that you mistake it for humility. You call it being nice, keeping the peace, not making a scene. But humility is not about silencing yourself. It's about knowing your worth without needing to shout it. You can be humble and still stand tall. You can be kind and still say no. You can love deeply and still refuse to settle for less than respect. The universe does not shrink its stars to please the night. The ocean does not quiet its waves to comfort the shore. So why should you silence your truth to keep others comfortable? You are a part of that same creation. You were made with purpose, with volume, with light. To shrink is to dishonor the divine design that made you whole. There is power in learning to take up space without apology, power in walking into a room without shrinking your shoulders, in speaking without softening your voice just to be heard, power in wearing your truth even when it doesn't match the colors of the crowd. That power is not arrogance, it is self-respect. It's the declaration that says, I have spent enough time trying to fit in. Now I choose to stand out. You will lose some people when you stop shrinking, but you will find yourself and you will find new souls, souls that love you in your fullness, that breathe easier in your presence because you give them permission to be whole too. Your authenticity becomes an invitation for others to unmask, to expand, to rise. That is how healing spreads, one unapologetic soul at a time. There will be times when you are misunderstood, when your strength is mistaken for pride, when your boundaries are seen as walls. Let them misunderstand. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to live your truth. You cannot please the world and honor your soul at the same time. Choose your soul. Always choose your soul. When you walk into spaces that can't hold your truth, remember that you were not built for those rooms. You were built to create new ones. The moment you stop shrinking, you start shaping a life that fits your spirit. A life where your laughter can echo freely, where your dreams have room to breathe, where your love can stretch without fear. That's the life you deserve. So don't bend your edges just because someone else fears sharpness. Don't water down your soul just because someone can't handle its flavor. Don't edit your light for hearts too dim to receive it. You were meant to be seen, to be heard, to be felt. You were meant to take up space, not hide in the corners of your own existence. And when you finally stop shrinking, something sacred happens. You return home to yourself. You remember the power in your own name, the strength in your own spine, the rhythm in your own heart. You realize you were never asking too much. You were just asking in the wrong room. You were never too big. The space was just too small. Rejection has a way of feeling final. It can slice through your confidence and settle deep in your spirit, whispering lies about who you are and what you're worth. When someone tells you no, when an opportunity slips through your fingers, when love you poured out doesn't return, it feels like the world has closed its doors on you. You question everything, your talent, your purpose, your beauty, your place in this vast spinning world. But what if rejection isn't the end? What if it's simply the universe's way of saying, not this way, not this time, not this person, but something greater is waiting? Rejection is not a punishment. It's a form of protection. Life has a way of keeping you from things that would break you before you're ready or limit you before you've grown. Sometimes what feels like loss is really grace in disguise. Sometimes the no you hear is the echo of a yes that hasn't reached you yet. We cry over closed doors, not realizing that some of them are locked for a reason, because what's behind them would have dimmed our light, silenced our voice, or taught us to settle for less than we deserve. When you're rejected, you stand at a crossroads between bitterness and belief. You can let the no define you, or you can let it refine you. Every closed door carries a message if you're still enough to listen. This was not meant to hold you. Move forward. It takes courage to believe that something better is unfolding when all you can see is absence. But every flower grows through dirt, and every miracle begins with loss. The truth is, you will not be everyone's choice, and that's okay. You are not meant to fit in every heart, not meant to be accepted in every room. Some people will not recognize your value because their vision is too clouded by fear, insecurity, or ego. Their rejection of you does not make you less valuable. It only reveals the limits of their perception. You are not hard to love. You are simply not for everyone. And that is a beautiful truth, not a painful one. There is power in the moments you are turned away, power in the spaces between what you wanted and what is meant for you. Because in those spaces, you meet yourself again. You learn to stand on your own 2 feet. You learn to find peace without permission, love without validation, and purpose without applause. Rejection forces you to look inward instead of outward. It breaks the illusions you built around others and teaches you to build a home within your own soul. Many times we beg for doors to open that are not aligned with our becoming. We plead for relationships to stay that were only meant to teach us lessons. We cry over missed chances that would have kept us small. But when you trust the process, You begin to see that every detour has divine timing. That job you didn't get might have led you into exhaustion instead of purpose. That person who walked away might have drained your peace instead of sharing it. That dream that crumbled might have been too small for who you're becoming. Life knows what you need, even when you don't. Rejection hurts because we confuse it with worth. We think, if I were better, they would have chosen me. If I were smarter, I'd have succeeded. If I were enough, they would have stayed. But the truth is, rejection has nothing to do with being enough. Sometimes it's about alignment. You can be extraordinary, but if the timing is wrong, if the energy doesn't match, if the purpose doesn't align, it will still fall apart. And that's not failure. That's fate protecting you from misplacement. Think of all the times you thought something was the end, only to look back later and whisper, "Thank God that didn't work out." The heartbreaks that led to healing, the endings that birthed beginnings, the losses that cleared space for something new. They were not rejection, they were redirection. They were life gently steering you away from what you thought you wanted toward what you truly needed. The most beautiful transformations often begin after rejection, because it's in those moments of falling apart that you start to rebuild with truth. You strip away everything false, everything forced, everything fragile. You stop trying to prove your worth and start remembering it. You stop chasing and start aligning. You stop clinging to what's leaving and start trusting what's coming. Rejection teaches resilience. It forces you to rise from places you never thought you could stand again. It teaches you that peace doesn't come from being chosen, it comes from choosing yourself. When someone says, "You're not for me," you can either shrink or shine. You can either chase after their approval or stand tall in your truth and say, "That's okay, I'll be enough elsewhere." Because you will be. There are hearts waiting for your kind of love, spaces waiting for your energy, opportunities that need your exact light. The moment you stop taking rejection personally, you start seeing it spiritually. You begin to understand that the universe never subtracts without intention. Every no is an arrow pointing you toward a higher yes. Every ending carries a seed of beginning. Every closed door whispers, "There's more." There is something sacred in learning to walk away gracefully, to let go without resentment, to trust that even what you don't understand is still working for your good. Rejection will sting, yes, but it also refines you. It burns away the illusions of control and teaches you surrender. It humbles your ego but strengthens your faith. It pulls you away from what was never yours so you can finally reach what truly belongs to you. When you understand that, you no longer beg to be accepted. You stop forcing connections that drain you. You stop knocking on doors that don't open. You learn to wait for what aligns, with patience, with grace, with strength. And in that waiting, you begin to transform. Because what's meant for you won't need convincing. It will come with ease, with peace, with reciprocity. You won't have to twist yourself to fit. You'll simply belong. Rejection, in its most painful disguise, is one of life's most faithful teachers. It strips away what isn't for you so you can finally meet what is. It's the universe clearing your path, pruning your life, and preparing your spirit for something far greater. So the next time life says no, don't fall apart, lean in. Don't close your heart, open it wider. Don't see the door closing, see the road turning, because every rejection carries a sacred redirection, and every redirection carries you closer to your destiny. There is a hunger that no food can fill, a hunger for approval, for recognition, for validation. It begins quietly, almost innocently in childhood, when a smile or a word of praise feels like sunlight. You learn early that when you please others, they call you good. When you succeed, they clap. When you meet their expectations, they love you louder. And slowly, without realizing it, you start to build your sense of worth on those echoes. You start to believe that love must be earned, that your value depends on how loudly others applaud. But validation is not nourishment. It is sugar for the soul, sweet for a moment, gone too soon, and leaving you emptier than before. You can live your whole life chasing the approval of others and still go to bed feeling hollow, because validation can touch your ego, but it will never feed your spirit. It's a performance, not peace. It's a light that flickers the moment someone stops watching. The truth is, when your self-worth is built on someone else's opinion, you become addicted to their approval the way the thirsty chase mirages in the desert, always running, never quenched. You start to measure your life by reactions. You post your joy and wait for hearts. You share your truth and wait for likes. You express yourself and then second guess if it was too much. And slowly you trade authenticity for acceptance. You stop asking yourself what feels right and start asking what looks right. You silence your heart to match the rhythm of the crowd, hoping the noise will drown out your fear of being unseen. But no amount of applause can fill the silence that lives inside when you've abandoned yourself. Validation is a fragile home. It collapses the moment the crowd moves on. The people who once praised you can just as easily forget you. The love that was loud can go quiet. The approval that once fed your confidence can suddenly turn into criticism. And if your sense of self is tied to their reaction, you'll crumble every time they shift. That is why true confidence can never depend on applause. It must be rooted in something deeper, something no one can give or take. The world will always have opinions. Some will lift you, others will break you. You'll meet people who admire your strength but envy your peace. Some will praise your truth only until it challenges theirs. If you live to please them all, you'll live 1,000 different lives and never find your own. You'll keep changing your shape to fit their mold, forgetting that you were never created to blend in. You were created to stand firm in your truth, even if no one claps. It is not your job to convince people to see your worth. It's your job to see it yourself, to look in the mirror and know that you are enough, even when no one says so. Validation can decorate your life, but it cannot define it. It can affirm you, but it cannot build you. The moment you stop chasing it, you start breathing. You start to hear the sound of your own voice again, unfiltered, unperformed, real. You must learn to give yourself what you keep begging others for. Tell yourself you're proud. Tell yourself you're beautiful. Tell yourself you did enough today. Feed your own spirit the way you wish the world would, because when your soul is starved of self-recognition, even the smallest compliment feels like a feast, but it's never enough. You'll keep reaching, grasping, craving more until you remember that the only love that truly nourishes is the one that begins within. People will come and go. Praise will come and go. Success will come and go. But the relationship you have with yourself, that's the one that stays. And if you've spent your whole life starving for validation, you'll find yourself lost every time the applause fades. That's why it's vital to learn the art of internal nourishment, to rest in your own approval, to find peace in your own reflection, to know that you are whole, even in silence. There is freedom in not needing to be seen. There is power in walking your path without broadcasting every step. There is beauty in knowing your own worth, even when the world is blind to it. When you stop needing validation, you begin to live honestly. You start saying no when you mean no, and yes when your soul agrees. You stop performing for acceptance and start creating from authenticity. You no longer chase love, you attract it by being true. Validation is temporary, fulfillment is eternal. One feeds the image, the other feeds the soul. You cannot survive on image. It will starve you slowly, making you dependent on a cycle of approval that never ends. Every time someone praises you, you'll rise. Every time they don't, you'll fall. And soon you'll forget how to stand on your own. But when you find fulfillment, your worth no longer wavers with opinion. You become grounded, rooted, at peace. We live in a world that teaches us to measure everything: followers, likes, compliments, applause. It teaches us that visibility is value, that success is defined by recognition. But numbers cannot reflect your soul. They cannot measure kindness, integrity, resilience, or the quiet ways you bring light into the world. The most beautiful parts of who you are will never be visible to everyone. They don't need to be. They just need to be true. Sometimes the universe takes away validation to teach you authenticity. The silence after the applause is not punishment. It's an invitation to return home to yourself. It's life asking, can you still love who you are when no one's watching? Because that's where true nourishment begins, in the solitude of your own acceptance. When you can sit with yourself unpraised, unliked, unseen, and still feel peace, you have mastered the art of self-love. You do not need to perform to be worthy. You do not need to prove to be lovable. You do not need to be noticed to be valuable. The world may not always recognize your worth, but that does not mean it disappears. The sun doesn't stop shining when clouds cover it. Your light doesn't fade when the world turns away. You are not defined by how many eyes see you, but by how deeply you see yourself. So stop waiting for applause that may never come. Stop starving your spirit for attention that was never meant to sustain you. Turn inward. Feed yourself with truth, compassion, patience, and love. Because validation fades, but self-acceptance endures. And when you finally learn to nourish yourself from within, no rejection, no silence, no absence can starve you again. There is a certain ache that comes from being unseen. It's not the kind of pain that shouts. It's the quiet, steady kind that sinks deep into your bones. It's when you sit beside someone and still feel alone, when your words fall heavy and disappear into silence, when your love feels like a gift no one bothers to open, and still you stay, hoping that one day they will look up and finally see you. But some spaces were never meant to hold your soul. Some rooms were not built to echo your voice. And sometimes the bravest thing you will ever do is simply walk away. You cannot thrive where you are invisible. You cannot bloom in soil that denies your roots. Yet so many of us linger in spaces that do not see us, relationships that drain us, jobs that silence us, friendships that dim our light. All because we mistake endurance for love, loyalty for purpose, and hope for proof. We keep giving and waiting until we forget what it feels like to be received. But staying unseen does not make you noble. It makes you empty. There is no honor in remaining where your spirit is slowly fading. When people cannot see you, it's not always because you are hidden. Sometimes it's because their sight is limited. They can only recognize love when it looks like their own reflection. They can only understand value when it benefits them. And so you find yourself explaining your worth, proving your loyalty, softening your voice just to fit their comfort. But no matter how you bend yourself, you will never fit into a heart that was not built to recognize your kind of truth. There is freedom in accepting that not every space deserves your presence. Not every table is meant for your light. Not every silence deserves your explanation. You are not obligated to stay where you are unseen, unheard, or unvalued. Your worth is not dependent on their acknowledgement. Walking away is not pride, it's preservation. It's choosing peace over pretense, choosing dignity over desperation. The moment you decide to leave a space that doesn't see you, a quiet strength begins to rise within you. You start remembering the sound of your own heartbeat, the weight of your own power, the rhythm of your own voice. You begin to reclaim all the parts of yourself you buried to make others comfortable. And though leaving hurts, staying hurts more. There will be voices that call you selfish for walking away. They will say you gave up too soon, that you should have tried harder. But trying harder in a place that doesn't see you will not make you more visible. It will only make you more tired. There comes a point when love turns into self-abandonment, when loyalty becomes self-neglect. That is when you must stop waiting for others to notice your worth and start noticing it yourself. Walking away doesn't mean you stopped caring. It means you cared enough about yourself to let go of what could no longer grow. It means you finally understand that your energy is sacred, that your time is precious, that your presence is a gift. It means you are done watering dead gardens, done begging for crumbs of attention, done proving what has always been true. When you leave unseen spaces, the world opens in unexpected ways. The silence that once felt empty begins to sound like peace. The loneliness that once scared you becomes freedom. You start to realize that you were never asking for too much. You were just asking in the wrong place. And in that realization, something inside you heals. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop pleading and start allowing. You stop shrinking and start expanding into who you were always meant to be. You will walk away from people you love. You will walk away from dreams that no longer fit. You will walk away from places that once felt like home but now feel like prisons. And it will hurt, because endings always do. But pain is not a punishment. It's a passage. It's the soul's way of making room for new beginnings. Sometimes the most painful goodbyes are the ones that free you the most. You were not meant to beg for attention in rooms you helped build. You were not meant to explain your kindness or justify your presence. The right people will see you without being told. The right spaces will hold you without being asked. They will recognize your silence as deeply as your words. They will feel your energy and call it home. That is where you belong, not where you must constantly remind them that you exist. Don't confuse invisibility with humility. You are not humble because you stay silent in your own suppression. True humility is standing tall in your truth without needing to be above anyone. It's saying, I deserve to be seen, without apology. It's knowing your value and walking away from anything that makes you question it. Every time you leave an unseen space, you send a message to the universe. I am ready for alignment, and the universe listens. New doors begin to appear. New faces enter your life. New opportunities arrive, ones that match your worth, not your wounds. Because the moment you stop settling for half love, half recognition, half respect, the world starts offering you wholeness. Some people will only see your value when you're gone. Some will finally notice your absence and realize that your presence was light. But by then, you will have already outgrown the need to be seen by them. Because walking away isn't about revenge or proving a point. It's about peace, about standing tall in the truth that you were worthy all along, even when they couldn't see it. When you walk away, do it with grace. Don't curse the spaces that couldn't see you. Bless them for teaching you where you don't belong. Every unseen space prepares you for the ones that will see you clearly. Every rejection, every silence, every moment of invisibility is shaping you into someone who no longer begs to be noticed, but knows how to be whole, even in solitude. You will not always be understood, and that's okay. You will not always be chosen, and that's okay too. What matters is that you do not abandon yourself in the process of trying to belong, because belonging that costs your identity is not belonging. It's bondage. There's a certain peace that comes when you no longer chase acknowledgement. You begin to realize that your worth was never hidden. It was only waiting for the right eyes to see it. So walk away from the spaces that make you small. Walk away from those who cannot hold your light. Walk away from the noise that drowns your spirit. Not out of bitterness, but out of love. Love for yourself, love for your peace, love for the life you deserve to live fully seen. There's a kind of peace that comes when you finally stop trying to be understood by those who were never meant to understand you. When you stop explaining your softness to people who only see it as weakness. When you stop proving your loyalty to those who never valued your presence. When you stop chasing belonging in places that were never built for your soul. Because the truth is, the right souls will recognize you instantly, not by what you say, not by what you do, but simply by the quiet energy of who you are. You'll know them when they arrive. You'll feel it before a word is spoken, that calm sense of familiarity, that gentle warmth that says, you don't have to perform here. It's the kind of connection that feels ancient, like your spirits have been waiting for this moment through lifetimes. You won't have to shrink to fit in or dim your light to be accepted. They will meet you exactly where you are and still see everything you're capable of becoming. The right souls will not be intimidated by your light. They will celebrate it. They will not compete with your growth. They will nurture it. They will not question your worth when you stumble. They will remind you of it. They will not need explanations for your silence because they'll understand the language of your quiet. With them, you will feel safe enough to be still, to be imperfect, to simply be. And that is a kind of love that doesn't demand but allows. So many people spend their lives trying to earn connection, bending, apologizing, performing, settling, all in the hope of being chosen. But real connection cannot be forced. You cannot convince someone to recognize your soul. They either do or they don't. And when they don't, it's not a reflection of your lack, it's a reflection of their limit. Some hearts are simply not evolved enough to see beyond the surface. Some minds are too distracted to perceive depth, and some souls are too guarded to feel the truth of another. But the ones meant for you, they will know. They'll notice the way your laughter hides pain, the way your silence carries stories, the way your strength is born from survival. They will not be afraid of your depth. They will not run from your intensity. They will not flinch when you show them the scars of your becoming. They'll hold those pieces with reverence because they'll understand that beauty often hides behind brokenness. The right souls don't come to fix you, they come to see you, to stand beside you as you heal, not to heal you for their own comfort. They don't fall in love with your potential, they fall in love with your presence. They don't love you for what you can give them, they love you for what you already are. And when you meet them, it will feel like a homecoming, not the kind you find in a place, but the kind you find in a person. You won't have to question their intentions because their actions will speak softly and consistently. They will not make you doubt your worth or your sanity. Instead, they will bring calm to your storms and steadiness to your chaos. They will remind you that connection isn't supposed to feel like confusion. It's supposed to feel like clarity. It's supposed to feel like peace. The beauty of life is that every wrong connection prepares you for the right one. Every person who misunderstands you teaches you how to stand firm in your truth. Every rejection becomes a form of redirection towards something that aligns more deeply with your soul. So even the ones who couldn't see you were part of your journey. They taught you discernment. They refined your boundaries. They shaped your understanding of what love truly means. It takes courage to wait for what's meant for you. It takes faith to believe that the right souls will appear in divine timing, not on your schedule. But they will. They always do. When you stop forcing connections and start living in your authenticity, you create an energy that attracts what is real. Because what's real doesn't chase, it recognizes. And when that recognition happens, you will feel something inside you settle, like an exhale you didn't know you'd been holding. It won't be fireworks or chaos, it'll be peace. It'll be ease. It'll be two souls recognizing each other, not because they were seeking, but because they were ready to receive, ready to give, ready to exist without fear. You won't have to hide the parts of you that are still healing. The right souls will love you there too. They will sit with you in your silence and remind you that your quiet moments are not a burden. They will speak life into you when you forget how to find your voice. They will see your darkness and not run, because they know that light is born from it. They will not be frightened by your depth, because they live in their own. These are not people who love you only when you are shining. They love you even when you are still finding your way. They do not celebrate only your victories. They hold you through your valleys. They don't require you to earn space in their lives. With them, your existence is enough. And perhaps the most beautiful thing about the right souls is that they will never make you doubt that they've recognized you. There will be no guessing games, no confusion, no need to chase clarity. Their consistency will speak where words cannot. Their presence will be steady, not conditional. You will feel safe in the knowing that they are here not by accident, but by alignment. You might meet them in the most unexpected ways, through chance, through chaos, through moments that seem insignificant at first. But when you look back, you'll realize every detour, every delay, every heartbreak was guiding you toward them. The universe has a quiet way of orchestrating connections that feel like destiny. And when you find these souls, whether they stay for a season or a lifetime, honor them. They are rare. They are proof that divine timing is real, that love can be effortless, that you don't have to beg to be seen. They remind you that recognition is not about being impressive. It's about being aligned. But before the right souls recognize you, you must first recognize yourself. You must see your own worth, your own light, your own beauty. You must stop hiding your truth for fear of being misunderstood, because when you are standing fully in who you are, you become visible to those who are meant to see you. The energy of authenticity is magnetic. It calls your people home. So trust the unfolding. The right souls will find you, not because you're searching, but because your energy will speak their language. They will recognize your heart in a crowd of strangers. They will see your soul even when your eyes are tired. And in their presence, you'll finally understand that love was never about being discovered. It was about being remembered. Freedom does not always come with open fields or unlocked doors. Sometimes it begins quietly, deep inside your spirit, when you finally decide to stop tolerating what hurts you, when you stop shrinking to keep the peace, when you stop begging to be valued in spaces that refuse to see your worth. That is where real freedom begins, not in the world outside, but in the heart that learns to respect itself. Self-respect is not arrogance, it's alignment. It's the sacred agreement between your soul and your boundaries. It's saying, I deserve peace, and meaning it. It's walking away from what disturbs your spirit, even when it looks familiar, even when it used to make you happy. Because there comes a time when you realize that not everything you love is meant to stay, and not everyone you give to will give back. Yet self-respect doesn't ask you to harden. It asks you to rise. It asks you to honor your truth, even when it disappoints others. For too long, we've been taught to confuse kindness with self-betrayal, to believe that loving others means losing pieces of ourselves, that if we are patient enough, quiet enough, understanding enough, love will return. But true love, whether it's for another or for yourself, cannot grow in the soil of disrespect. When you let people cross boundaries you never agreed to, when you keep forgiving behavior that keeps hurting you, when you silence your truth just to be accepted, you are teaching the world how to treat you. And one day you wake up exhausted, not from the world's cruelty, but from your own neglect. You start to feel the weight of all the times you said yes when your soul screamed no. You begin to see that the peace you keep trying to build with others must first be built within yourself. Because freedom doesn't come from being liked, it comes from being real, from saying, I will no longer betray my peace just to belong. Self-respect teaches you to stand tall in your truth, even when it shakes. It's not about pride, it's about preservation. It's about saying, I love you, but I love myself too. It's knowing that walking away from what diminishes you is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's knowing that silence can be power and boundaries can be compassion. Because you can care deeply for someone and still refuse to be disrespected by them. You can forgive without giving repeated access to those who misuse your softness. There's a difference between forgiveness and permission. Forgiveness is freedom, permission is bondage. You can forgive someone and still choose to step away. You can release the pain without reopening the wound. Respecting yourself means understanding that peace sometimes looks like distance, that closure sometimes looks like silence, and that strength often looks like saying nothing and simply walking away. When you begin to respect yourself, you start noticing what no longer deserves your energy. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop chasing validation from those who will never value your effort. You stop pouring into cups that leak. You stop giving access to people who treat your love like an option. You stop needing to prove your worth to those who were never capable of seeing it. That's when you begin to taste the sweetness of freedom, the kind that doesn't depend on applause, permission, or approval. Freedom and self-respect walk hand in hand. One cannot exist without the other, because when you respect yourself, you no longer fear being alone. You no longer beg for love, you choose it. You no longer settle for half-hearted presence. You wait for real connection. You stop chasing after people and start attracting peace. And suddenly, solitude doesn't feel like punishment. It feels like power. There's a quiet confidence that grows inside you when you finally stop settling. You begin to carry yourself differently. Your words soften, but your boundaries sharpen. You learn that not every argument deserves your energy. Not every insult deserves your attention. You learn that walking away doesn't mean you lost. It means you finally understood that your time is sacred. People who thrive on control will call your self-respect attitude. Those who benefited from your silence will call your boundaries selfish. But that is only because they no longer profit from your lack of self-worth. The more you respect yourself, the more others will reveal their true intentions. Some will rise to meet your new standard. Others will fall away. Both are blessings, because self-respect doesn't chase. It attracts what is worthy and filters out what isn't. There's a kind of peace that arrives when you finally choose yourself without guilt, when you stop apologizing for existing as you are, when you stop trying to earn love that should be freely given, when you realize that the only person responsible for protecting your peace is you. That's when your spirit exhales. That's when you reclaim the pieces of yourself you once gave away just to feel loved. Self-respect is not about being unkind or unfeeling. It's about being clear. It's about saying, I am no longer available for what hurts me. It's about knowing when to leave, when to rest, and when to refuse. It's about refusing to let anyone convince you that your boundaries are a burden. Because those who truly love you will never ask you to shrink so they can feel tall. When you respect yourself, love becomes quieter, not desperate, not loud, not grasping, just steady. You no longer need grand gestures to feel secure. You no longer need to be chosen to feel seen. You no longer crave attention to feel valued. You become your own safe space. You give yourself the love, the compassion, the patience you once begged from others. And from that wholeness, everything else begins to shift. Freedom begins when you no longer tolerate what breaks you. It begins when you stop staying where you are unseen. It begins when you understand that peace is not a prize, it's a standard. You are not difficult for wanting respect. You are not selfish for protecting your boundaries. You are not arrogant for walking away from what dishonors you. You are simply free, and that freedom will cost you. It will cost you people who only loved you when you were small. It will cost you the comfort of familiarity. It will cost you the illusion of belonging. But what you gain in return is worth far more: dignity, peace, clarity, power. You will learn that you do not need to fight for a place in anyone's life. You are your own foundation, your own home, your own freedom. There will come a day when you look back and realize that every heartbreak, every disappointment, every moment of disrespect taught you how to rise. You will see that self-respect was not the end of your softness, it was the rebirth of your strength. And that strength will guide you toward a life where you are not caged by fear, not trapped by need, not silenced by insecurity. Because when you respect yourself, you no longer live for approval, you live for truth. And that is the purest form of freedom there is. Your worth was never theirs to define. And when you finally learn that truth, no rejection, no silence, no distance can shake the foundation of your self-love. The moment you refuse to lower your value, you teach the world how to treat you. And that, my dear, is the birth of freedom.